Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Thoughtful Leaders, an initiative under Thoughts on Education by collegedunia.com. College Dunia is one of India's leading education portals, catering to students, parents, and education industry players who are seeking information on exams, cutoffs, student reviews, or applying to colleges. Thoughts on Education initiative is to enrich the user experience at collegedunia.com and try to bridge the long gap between the vision of top management and the students or parents. Today, we have with us Dr. Prasanna Navyar, Principal of Don Bosco Institute of Technology. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Yeah, ma'am. So, beginning with the interview, my first question to you is that you have held key positions at education institutes throughout your professional career. What are the key factors that keep you connected with the education sector?
Okay, so let me first start off by saying as to why did I get into the education sector? Because as soon as I graduated in mechanical engineering, I was very keen on taking a job in an industry, and I did work in a core mechanical manufacturing unit for 3.5 years, and subsequently with an industries organization for 1.5 years. And the reason why I got into teaching is because I was looking forward to a workplace where no 2 days would be identical. I wanted to look forward to every day of my work. And therefore, I simply got into teaching as an experiment on an experimental basis. And once I got into it, I found it extremely enjoyable because I found that every day brought in so much of fulfillment. It brought a sense of fulfillment every single day that I was at work. And I think that was a love story with teaching and education that started way back in 1987, and it continues to be there even after 34 years. So yes, so teaching has, I can say that it was my true calling, it was a passion. And I think I was able to get into teaching because of the fact that I engaged with students very, very closely. I was not just a teacher, I was also a mentor, I was a friend, I was a guardian. And the interactions and the experiences that I've had with my students have enriched my life immensely. And I think that is what made me stick to the teaching profession. Because you have these young students who are 17, 18, 19 years old, very, very impressionable. They are aspirational, they want to do something in life. And when you are a part of that aspiration, when you are a part of that dream, when you are a part of that change, I think it's a wonderful space to be in. And only a teacher can ever be in that space. So I think that's what made me remain connected with teaching all these years.
Okay, ma'am. Moving on to our next question. Being the principal of Don Bosco, what is your philosophy of leadership? Or how would you describe your leadership style as?
So let me tell you that I do not have any particular leadership style, and I don't read leadership books. I don't try to figure out how somebody else would have worked in my position. There are a couple of principles that I stick to. One is that my leadership style is not top-down at all. I don't enforce anything. For me, it's very important that I get everybody who is going to be affected by my decision. I want every such individual to be a part of the decision making. So that's not easy because sometimes you are not taking the best decisions. But it is important that you take a decision which is in everybody's interest. I think that is most important, and that has been my style. So it has never been top down. I always seek the consensus of my faculty before I get into any decision. And I think because of that, there is always a sense of ownership. My colleagues own the decision because it is not imposed on them. So they feel that they have been involved in the decision-making process, and therefore there is a sense of ownership. And I think that is a policy that I have stuck to for a very, very long time. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Moving on to our next question. The education systems in India and other foreign countries are structured very differently. So, in your experience, what can an inbound student gain from studying in your
Uh, so, so let me first of all say that, as far as higher education is concerned, and I would say more so as far as technical education is concerned, because my association has been more with technical education. I think it is over-regulated. It is hugely regulated, and when it becomes so highly regulated, there is very little freedom for institutes to truly excel. Because when you have to excel, I think you need to have a little bit of freedom. But this over-regulation probably constricts people a lot. And I think that is what has been the bane of technical education, especially as far as the university technical education has been concerned, across all universities in the country. So if you ask me, is there anything specific that we can give an inbound student? It is true not only for DBIT, but it is true for many colleges. I don't think we can offer the kind of unique experiences that one gets in universities abroad. We are just not designed for these kind of unique experiences, and that's the sad part. Yeah, so I don't think, we are a good destination for very core technical education, unless you consider the IITs, who are definitely a class apart.
Yeah. So moving on to our next question. Any insights into how DBIT could be more welcome to the students of different races or economic backgrounds?
Yeah, so what we are trying to do is, since we are an affiliated university and we work with Mumbai affiliated institute, and we work with Mumbai University, of course, we have a lot of regulation in terms of the curriculum and so on and so forth. So the thing is, how do you bring value in spite of the regulation? That is the important part. How do you create the key differentiator for a student of your institute in spite of what the Mumbai University curriculum is all about? So what we have tried to do is, while the curriculum is always there as a part of the framework, because we need to adhere to that, what we have tried to do is we have tried to get our students into courses, into programs, into activities, into events, which go beyond the curriculum. So it has all been in terms of bringing in a holistic development. And what DBIT does differently is that we lay a lot of emphasis on undergraduate research. So we have been research oriented from the very, very beginning. We are highly process oriented, and most of these processes are processes that we have brought in ourselves in order to ensure that while we comply with the regulatory requirements, we also do things uniquely. So research has been one such area. A lot of emphasis on co-curricular activities. So, people today talk about project-based learning, whereas we introduced project-based learning more than 10, 12 years ago. People talk about learning management systems, whereas we had learning management systems from inception. So there has been a lot of process orientation that has happened. Holistic development is that something that many colleges and universities talk about, but we truly believe in the holistic development. And I think one area where we are very unique is that we try to engage our students with the local communities, because we believe that if you have technology, that technology is worthwhile if it is able to make the life of the common man better. So how do you understand problems of the common man? How do you understand the problems of a hutman dweller or a tribal? How can you ensure that how can you introduce technology or tweak technology so that their lives become better? And this is where we try to give our students a unique experience, and it has worked very well with us, because I can see the connect that our students have with the communities and the empathy that they are able to develop. And I think this has always been very, very important for the Don Bosco institutions, that how do you connect with the communities?
Okay. Moving on to our next question now. What do you think should be Don Bosco's top priority over the next 10 years?
Oh, okay. So over the next 10 years, okay, fine. One way of looking at it is that you try to look at all the regulatory requirements and look at the NIRF ranking and the NBA and the NAC and so on and so forth. But I believe that if an institute has to truly excel, it has to look beyond this. Certifications and accreditations are simply, milestones which you achieve in your path towards excellence. So for us, they are what they are. They are the milestones, but they are not our goal. So our goal is, as I said, ensuring that we give our students the kind of education which will make them enablers as far as the society is concerned. And this is something that Don Bosco has always believed in, that we always say that we are not only creating good engineers, we are creating citizens who are empathetic, who understand the requirements of the community, and who are able to deploy technology for that reason. So therefore, that is something that we have been working extensively towards. And we have also started looking very, very keenly on ensuring that our students, apart from being only job seekers, also take up job creation in a very big way. So that is the kind of focus that we are having over the next couple of years, wherein we try to ensure that our students understand the importance of, first of all, deploying technology, and also of the importance of being job creators.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. So moving on to the next question. What do you think are your roles and responsibilities to the EVRT as well as the students?
I would say that my role is in DBIT is primarily, and I think that would be the role of a leader of any institute, is to first of all find out that how do you remain focused, how do you remain relevant at all points in time, because technology is changing around you. Requirements of the industry are changing, requirements of the community are changing, requirements of the students are changing. So I think, so as a leader, it is important for me to be sensitive to all these changes. I need to be able to capture all these changes and see how, once I capture these changes, how can I incorporate them in my teaching learning process, so that at no point in time do my students feel that they are outdated or they are not prepared for the challenges which are there in the industry. So for me, it is all about ensuring that we are completely tuned to the requirements of the environment around us, and we capture those requirements, we transfer it to our students, and ensure that they are always worthy candidates for any kind of technology related activity that is required by the industry or by society at large.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, moving on to the next question. What do you see as DBIT's greatest strengths?
I think one of the greatest, I would say we have a couple of strengths. One strength is the brand of Don Bosco itself, which is highly community focused, which is highly student centric. For them, it is all about ensuring that students are made worthy citizens. And it is not just about educating them in technology, it is also educating them about everything else that is important to be a good citizen. So I think the brand of DBIT is, and the values of Don Bosco are very, very important. That's a very important strength for us. Then, of course, is the management, which strictly follows these things. And they have helped us create a campus which is very student-friendly and very student-centric. And I would say that the third strength that we have are our faculty. We have a bunch of faculty who who have been very loyal to Don Bosco. So our faculty retention rates have been very, very high from the very beginning. And that is, of course, I would give all credit to the management, but the faculty also embraces the value system of Don Bosco. And that is visible in the way in which they interact with the students, in the manner in which they go about their responsibilities. So that is a very core strength of ours. And I think another very core strength probably are our alumni, who are deeply connected with the institute. our parents who understand what our values are. So yes, these are some of the important strengths that on which we have been able to survive and also thrive.
Okay, ma'am. Moving on to our next question. What are some of the biggest challenges that you for both higher education in general as well as for Don Bosco?
Okay, so some of the biggest challenges, I think, as I told you, one important point is that we are highly regularized. So I think because of the regulatory pressure on institutes, there is very limited scope. It's a huge challenge to work beyond the regulatory requirements and truly excel. So that is a big challenge for us. And over the years, though things were supposed to be made, though the regulations were supposed to be relaxed, the truth is that it is becoming over-regularized. It is simply increasing. Because whenever there is a new decision by by either the ministry or the government or by anybody, earlier one could choose whether to pursue it or not pursue it, depending upon how your institute is poised, how it is located, what the institute's culture is, what its core values are, and so on and so forth. But now we find that there isn't that flexibility is not there. So you are expected to do many more things, and all these things don't come naturally to every institute, because every institute has its own culture. There is a manner in which it wants to grow, and we don't have the opportunity to grow organically. We feel that we are pressurized into growing into areas which probably are not our core strengths. So I think that is going to be a big challenge, and probably colleges, that is why there are many colleges who are trying to become autonomous. There are many deemed universities which are going to be set up. So I think these universities are trying to ensure that they can have a lot more flexibility in the course and the curriculum. The other thing is also that I feel, personally, that there is a huge gap between what are the requirements of the country to grow and to develop, and what is it that we are providing at the education level. So if you look at the current flagship programs of the Government of India, you have Make in India, you have Atmanirbhar Bharat, and so on and so forth. We have a wonderful opportunity over here to be a manufacturing hub. Take that right from those rights from China and become a huge manufacturing hub. But if you look at how colleges have been reacting to this, you will find that there is an increasing number. There are increasing number of courses which are going only into artificial intelligence and machine learning and so on and so forth. Where is manufacturing? Manufacturing is just not there. Infrastructure is just not there. So unless colleges are able to ensure that they provide the country with the right kind of trained manpower to take India into the next orbit, we will simply be talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, and we will simply be talking about Make in India, and nothing will change on the ground. So this is a huge challenge. This gap is something that needs to be addressed. But unfortunately, because of the organizations and what should I say, the software companies and all these companies becoming very, very popular, hardcore core engineering is being lost. And I think that is going to create problems for us 10 years down the line. We are not going to have good engineers for infrastructure, for manufacturing, and for the core engineering aspect. So I think this is going to be a huge challenge, not only for technical education, but for the country and also for institutes like us, wherein our strength is in core engineering, and we have to cater to allied engineering courses, which somehow, doesn't work. So that is going to be a big challenge.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, this brings us to our last question. are there any messages or are there any suggestions that you would like to give to the current youth?
Yeah, I would like to tell the younger students that they are they are in a very enviable position right now, because there are many organizations which are saying that we are not interested in what marks you score. We want to know what your capabilities are. So I think it's a huge opportunity for those students who are not very good at scoring marks, rote learning and scoring marks, but who are very capable otherwise. This is a huge opportunity for them, because finally their talent is being recognized. And therefore my suggestion, and I would say that my advice to every student is that follow your dreams. There is a place for your dream in this world. If you follow your dream and you excel in it, you can do wonders, not only to yourself, but you can make a huge change in the world as well. And no dream is too small. I think no dream is too small. You just need to dream, and you will find the right people to nurture it and to take it forward. So this has always been my advice and my suggestion to students. Never stop dreaming. Never stop believing in yourself.
Yeah. So thank you so much. This was certainly an insightful session. So everyone, this was Dr. Prasanna Nagar, Principal of BPIT, on the episode of Thoughtful Leaders, an initiative under Thoughtful Education by collegedunia.com. Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving us your time.
Thank you.
We look forward to interact with you once again, ma'am.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.